Primary election results and a rundown of town council action on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, September 7th, 2012. I'm Sarah Colvin. 20% of Barnstable voters hit the polls in Thursday's primary election. Voters in several Barnstable precincts and in 2 Yarmouth precincts had a very heavily watched race. Second Barnstable State Representative Demetrius Atzelis faced a challenge from attorney Brian Mannell. Mannell managed to unseat Atzelis in yesterday's election, besting the 7-term incumbent 2,058 votes to Atzelis' 1,651. Mannell lives in Centerville with his wife Sarah and their 2 children. In Barnstable, Mannell won precincts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10. Atzelis won in 8, 9, and 13. In other primary news, incumbent Congressman Bill Keating beat primary opponent Sam Sutter, and on the Republican ticket, Adam Chapralis won over Christopher Sheldon. Chapralis will face Keating in the November election. Barnstable Town Council made quick work of its agenda last night. First up, a presentation from the Renewable Energy Commission. The town's contract with CMAS, the waste-to-energy facility, ends in 2014. The end of that contract could mean big changes in the cost of waste disposal for Barnstable. The Renewable Energy Commission has been exploring alternatives and presented its report to the Town Council last night. Energy Coordinator Richard Elrick sums up the group's recommendations.
These are the prioritized recommendations of the Commission. Number 1, implement contracted pay-as-you-throw curbside trash and recycling collection with 3 sectors divided by population density. We think it makes sense to keep the transfer station open for certain items as well as for certain residents because they live on private ways that perhaps are not passable or because they choose not to participate. We don't think there would be many of those people, quite frankly, but I think it makes sense to design the program in that fashion, and of course establish the new Board of Health regulations that we've talked about. Our second priority recommendation: implement pay-as-you-throw for the curbside transfer station users. It's certainly not as advantageous from a town-wide perspective. It doesn't save the kinds of energy and doesn't reduce the town's overall waste stream as much, but it would certainly be a good fallback position if for whatever reason you decided that curbside pay-as-you-throw program was not in the cards. Finally, the conclusion of all this: full curbside with pay-as-you-throw maximizes recycling and other environmental benefits and provides the greatest long-term cost savings for the town's residents. Pay-as-you-throw is the most equitable solid waste disposal system based on usage, and pay-as-you-throw is the most effective strategy to reduce solid waste for the town and its residents.
The council asked several questions and heard from Paul Tilton, Director of Public Works in Sandwich. That town recently implemented a pay-as-you-throw program. Councilors said the next step is to absorb the information and begin discussions. Next up, a series of grant acceptances appeared on the agenda. Director of Community Services Lynn Poyant spoke to a grant for lifeguards.
This actually completes the Cole Foundation's requests or gifts to the town of Barnstable lifeguards. It's 5 lifeguard tower canopies covering Hathaway's Pond, Wequaget Lake, and Sandy Neck Beach.
Thank you very much. Do we have any discussion with regard to this item? Vice President Barton?
This is a great cause. I'll move the question.
Second. We have a motion to move the question and a second. All in favor of moving this item? That is unanimous. And all in favor of accepting the gift from the Glenna Cole Foundation? That is unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Chief of Police Paul McDonald had 3 different grants to discuss before the council last night. The first, a $177,000 grant from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Safety.
The police department applied for and was awarded the 911 support and incentive grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security State 911 Department in the amount of $177,282. The police department serves as a primary public safety answering point, and that it receives all category 911 calls, police, fire, and rescue, and then dispatches to the appropriate service according to the type of need of the call. Eligible entities for this grant are primary, regional secondary PSAPs, and regional emergency communication centers. The acceptance of this grant will allow the department to replace qualified personnel in the communication center in order to provide adequate staffing to that area on an understaffed shift without incurring undue overtime expenses. This is a reimbursement grant for overtime and equipment.
The second, a $56,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Justice.
The Barnstable Police Department applied for and was awarded the fiscal year 2012 Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $56,022. This grant has been deemed to be disparate certification allocation to be distributed among 3 towns. The 3 towns are Barnstable, Falmouth, and Yarmouth. Barnstable portion of the grant is $31,602. Of that money, $10,000 is to be expended on a computer system network area file storage backup and disaster recovery system and off-site cloud-based backup service. $21,602 is to be expended for the purchase of EarCard service to enable mobile connectivity between police cruisers and internal police software and internet. There is no matching funds required for this grant. This is a reimbursement grant as expenses are incurred up to the total dollar amount of the grant.
Thank you very much, Chief.
And the
Counsel
third,
Davis.
a $14,000 emergency management performance grant.
The Police Department applied for and was awarded the fiscal year 10 Emergency Management Performance Grant from the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, in the amount of $14,000. The Barnstable Police Department coordinates the emergency management operation for the town of Barnstable, and the Chief of Police serves as the Emergency Management Director. The acceptance of this grant will allow the department to replace obsolete handheld radios that are a vital tool in emergency operations. The fiscal impact: the grant requires a 100% match, which is largely met via a portion of the chief's salary that is allocated to emergency management operations based on a formula provided in the grant of $9,200. The balance is met through the purchase of 2 handheld radios in the amount of $4,800 through our operating budget.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion with regard to this item? Vice President Barton.
I just want to recognize Ann Spillane as well for her, because I know she does a great job writing those grants and putting them together, and just didn't want to let that go by.
I will pass that on.
All 3 grants were approved unanimously. The final item on the agenda was the transfer of property on Willow Ave from the town to a private owner. Town Manager Tom Lynch outlined the
The town
deal.
of Barnstable has been considering the sale of this property for several years, and one staff had concluded that the parcel was not a part of future public redevelopment of the area. The property was deemed surplus the town needs, and I considered and recommended the sale of the parcel. The reference request for proposals for the disposal by sale of 58 Willow Ave, which was advertised and posted on the Town of Barnstable website, is contingent upon the final approval of the Town Council. Although a few local realtors and individuals had expressed an interest in the property, the only proposal put forth came from the current tenant, James Shaughnessy, who operates his business, Cape Cod Fuel, from this location. Mr. Shaughnessy offered $195,500 cash sale with no contingencies, and accepting the property as is. We had a professional commercial appraiser, Robert Sabin of West Barnstable, appraise the property in advance of the issuance of the RFP. The appraised value came in at $155,000, and that became the minimum bid for the property. The town of Barnstable assessed the value of the property at $173,700. Based on the favorable offer received for the property and the idea of returning it to the tax rolls for the town, Mr. Shaughnessy's $195,500 bid is hereby recommended for acceptance and will forward it to you for your approval. The legal department has also reviewed this recommendation and for the acceptance of the purchase and sale agreement. I would note that when property is sold of this nature, there are certain restrictions on the potential use of the funding for that, and that is that it would have to be done through a bond package in this instance. So we would be thinking to apply this money for our capital improvement program.
That deal was also approved by council. Also in last night's action, the council voted unanimously to approve a contract for Barbara Ford. Ford has been acting as town council administrator for a year and a half. Last night, her contract was approved, and she is now town council administrator. You can watch the full meeting online at town.barnstable.ma.us. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.